process that will progress the ward so that, again, we can use our resources effectively and efficiently. We have different timetables for implementing participatory budgeting, but it's leading to the same result.
And this is really where empowerment comes in, because people are in control of their own projects and responsible for working with the delegates and the alderperson to make sure that they get implemented if they're chosen. So once all the projects have been outlined, people throughout the ward actually get to vote on what projects are implemented for that year.
So one thing that I catch with a lot of candidates and politicians, that they will tell us that all of their decisions have been made with community input. Where do you think the disconnect is with that supposed community input, and how would participatory budgeting help with that process?
I would say, yeah, go ahead. Do you mind?
Go.
Okay. What politician is going to look at you and say, I did it without any input? Okay? It's an easy throwaway line, because our politicians are not right now held accountable because there is no transparency in our government. I absolutely, one of the first campaign promises that I have is that if elected in my ward, we will have accountants. I am going to be accountable to the constituents in the ward at the very first with an annual fiscal report, so that everyone knows what decisions are made. If there's no visibility, there's no accountability. If there's no accountability, it's very easy to go back and say, I've done this with the support of my constituents. I think that's an easy line for politicians to throw out. I don't always believe it, and it's not going to happen. I am taking steps or planning steps to ensure that when I say that I've done this with involvement of the constituents, it's visible that it's happened because it's been transparent.
And perhaps one of the challenges, love her passion. Perhaps one of the challenges is that in many wards, the neighborhood organizations are not as strong as they should be. The residents are not organized and they're not mobilized. And so for that reason, it probably is somewhat difficult for the average politician to go out there and actually get the type of input in a very quick and organized fashion. And that's what I think having this structure that not only would support participatory budgeting, but just participatory governance in general.
I mean, I agree with what they're saying. I think the biggest problem we have now is the squeaky wheel gets the grease. Usually the person who wants their project implemented currently just complains the most. And when they complain the most, they get what they want. Well, this is really opening it up and asking people to come out and participate and really giving them the option to let their voice be heard. That's actually one of the biggest things that they've seen in these other cities where they've done this. They've seen participation in their community grow exponentially. In Portugal, like Brazil, where they first started it, the first year they had about 1,000 people participating. By the third year, they had over 20,000 people participating. So, the first year is probably going to be tough to really get out there and activate people, but after that and after word gets out, people are going to come out and they're going to feel good that they can be involved in their government. Any other questions?
Well, you must have hit a really good one then.
Yeah.
I want to add, as we're waiting for you all to think about questions, just how incredibly important movements for change like this are. We have a history in St. Louis of lifetime politicians, and you're not going to get innovative changes by electing the same people over and over again. Einstein said it, and I've quoted him several times. Insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. If you want a different result, you have to elect new voices into the politics. We represent those new voices.
So what will happen if no one shows up to the participatory budgeting, or if so few people show up? How would you get people involved?
So let's say at very worst, no one comes out and participates. Then you have already what happens today, which is that the squeaky wheel gets the grease, right? And that you have several people in the neighborhood, maybe 10 to 20 people controlling what projects get implemented. So at the very least, if no one comes out, it's going to be the same as it is. but I don't see that happening. They haven't had that problem in any of the other districts or wards they've implemented in the U.S. because people are very excited, and when I'm going door to door, people are really excited to participate. I already even have a couple people I've talked to. They're like, when you get elected and you're in there, I want to help you with this. And they're people that have never been active in the community before.
And obviously there's going to be some growing pains, and the way to really deal with that is you don't have to necessarily say all the ward funds initially have to go towards the participatory budgeting process. You can actually create a timeline where you can slowly escalate the amount. And so what we can do is just start with a small amount of the ward's funds, and as we're shoring up the process and making sure that people are engaged, and once we get that involvement, we can then set aside more and more of the board's funds to go towards the PD process.
I would add to that. Every journey starts with a first step, and that's the first step. We believe in the people of people in St. Louis. We believe in their passion, and we believe that this is the way to move forward. Again, every journey starts with the first step, and we're taking that first step now.
And there's one more thing I'd like to add. I can't say that I've seen this a lot, but one thing that's really cool is how we've been able to reach across wards and reach out to each other, to watch each other's campaigns and actually see that there's some commonalities, and then be willing to go across ward boundaries to engage each other and talk about these things. It's been really, really exciting for me.
Oh my God, every time you talk, I just want to jump.